Hello, ladies and germs. All right, so today, guys, we got a bit of something different. I don't expect a lot of you to be too genuinely interested because this is really in our usual topic stream. But what we're talking to today is a guy named Brian Sulphur, and he is a YouTuber. He's been doing Let's Plays, or as he calls them, talk-throughs, which I also like. So, it's basically a walkthrough of the game, usually very often a thorough look at the whole game with commentary going over it. And he's been doing that for like 8 years, since like the whole Let's Play thing started. And I've been a fan for that period of time. So me and Brian started talking, and we're here with him today, and we're going to have a bit of a chat. Brian, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Well, I would like to thank you, first of all, for doxing me right out of the gate. For branding purposes, it's Brisulph, but you can find that on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. If you want to look up my actual Brian Sulphur name, you can also see I've written 170 FAQs starting back in 2002 on GameFAQs. Basically, anything I can find to do with games, I tend to eventually move into a new arena every 5 years or so because I get bored. But still doing YouTube, still doing a little bit of FAQs, living on Twitch mostly. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. And Will, why don't you real quick introduce yourself again?
I'm a crazy person in California. I do system administration and programming and stuff, but no one gives a shit about any of that. I'm just a jackass on the internet.
Basically, we all are. So, like I was saying to Brian before we went live, what I'm hoping today will be is a sort of candid look at some of the topics that, because Brian doesn't, as it's not really the format for during his videos, he doesn't bring up, political subjects or opinions on different topics like that. So we're going to get into sort of political shit and the like. So to start with, Brian is a Canadian, like myself. Brian, I would like to hear your, just a short synopsis of your perspective on the, let's see, how do I put it? The sort of shift in Canada at the moment, the Justin Trudeau, the very, very hard progressive shift that we're going through right now, or at least how I see it. How do you see it? And what do you think about that?
What I see is there's a potential progressive shift going on, but for that to work and actually move the spectrum in this country towards that progressive shift that people keep either are going finally or yay, we're really getting there, or they're more terrified of getting there. If the man doesn't get anything done soon of any real substance that doesn't piss off a lot of people along the way, he doesn't find a way to include everyone, then it's just going to snap back to where it is now, which is still far more left than, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners, and Will, I believe, said is in the U.S. We're still far left than that, but it could swing further right if the man doesn't get something done. I personally I'm more of a centrist, and I'm a believer in whoever's in there, get something useful done. Don't waste our time and money doing something really dumb.
Right.
So that's by my general quick synopsis of Canadian politics at the moment. It's like, yay, Justin, you're so good looking. Get something done.
Pretty much, right?
That was one thing that we've commented on a few times, just in private conversations. He looks like the guy who should be on the cover of a romance novel, with some Fabio hair going on. My name is Justin Trudeau, and he just kind of looks at you with that kind of sultry look that that he'll take care of you.
I mean, the craziest thing is that if you look at his dad, who was also prime minister, his dad was not a good-looking man. So I don't know where these looks came from out of nowhere, but I mean,
his mom was kind of like a model, wasn't she?
Honestly, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I don't.
I know she wasn't like in the political sphere.
Yeah, I mean, Trudeau Senior there, I guess, for lack of a better term on it. He was a little before my time because I was born near the tail end of his many prime minister stewardships of the country. Because again, for the American listeners, the Canadian system is it's neat. I mean, the past prime minister Stephen Harper won 3 elections in the span of 19 months.
Yeah.
But you got to remember, our elections are like 5 weeks long.
Yeah.
Unlike yours that are like now 4-year entertainment, pretty much.
No, ours are like World War I. They're trenches that are dug, and every once in a while,
noxious gas. Oh yeah,
right, exactly, noxious gas, and there'll be horrible casualties, and you'll advance a mile.
A mile? You're being generous to World War I in some cases.
Yeah, exactly. It's 10 million people. We got a mile, guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But yeah, so
And
something
I think
we've
Hillary
covered,
threw something like 2 point something billion dollars into
something, it
that.
was ridiculous. We were
It
talking
was
about last night.
it was hot. It was really
Yeah.
hot. I mean, to quote Paris Hilton.
That is absurd.
Yeah, it was hot.
So something we've kind of often got into on this show, and sort of where I was coming at it from, and I too am more of a centrist, but something I've been very vehemently against, although I do agree with you very much so about the, whoever's in charge, just get something done. I very much agree with that. But what I view, and I think a lot of the people that are in this group have felt, is sort of a radical push to the left. To me, it's interesting because you see the way we're pushing new laws, and like I don't know if you know anything about the way that the Ontario like tribunal rights courts work. It's basically there's a bunch of kangaroo courts in Canada too, and it seems like more and more there's a shift towards political correctness basically dominating the sphere. And I can remember this sort of dawning as early as maybe when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, when they started doing things like participation medals, and it was like you weren't allowed to lose. And that's the general thing about this cultural shift, is you're not allowed to tell anybody that they failed. You're not allowed to tell anybody that they lost. Nobody is allowed to lose. Everybody has to get credit as, oh, you tried. It's not that nobody's allowed to be a failure. If you call somebody a failure, you're an evil person. And it's almost like niceness in Canada, which has often been our stereotype, has just fucking taken over to such a ridiculous degree. That's how I view it anyway. Do you notice this trend? And if so,
I'll just interject something here, just so Canadians understand. That's largely what's gone on over here in California. We have a similar thing in our culture with niceness. And the niceness has been used to push a lot of radical politics on the basis of, but it would be unnice to not do this thing. And at a certain point, it becomes bizarre and sometimes horrifying. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, you don't want to be unnice, right? Right?
Yeah, exactly. So have you noticed that, Brian? What's your perspective on it?
I don't know about participation trophies or ribbons or whatever you want to say for that. That's always kind of been a thing. It's probably become more prevalent in the last 30 years. But something along those lines of was discussed initially discussed by South Park last year, their last season, previous season. Yeah. It started with the whole PC thing. And there's these two farmers leaning on a fence, and the one guy goes, "Oh, looks like PC's making a comeback." Oh, yeah. How long did it last time? About 8.3 years. How long has it been this time? About a month. Shit. And then this season kind of lost its way after that, slowly but surely. But the point they were making was that this PC thing in the 90s in particular, it was really prevalent, and as the 90s came to a close, it sort of dissipated, and then there was a certain little plane party in New York in September 2001 that kind of really set that type of stuff back for a long time, and now it's coming back again. The problem is there's now this very extensive network, interconnected network for the whole world, and people are using that as a way to make things seem more horrifically, either look at all the crazy people over here, look at all these crazy people here, and the crazy people have a voice, but these crazy people shouldn't have a voice. And it's like, no, people should be able to express themselves just like you want to express yourselves. Mm-hmm. You're going to disagree with them. It's just now you're going to hear a lot more voices. So the PC thing is kind of getting this huge pushback. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting on it. I'm of the opinion you should treat people with respect that you would want yourself. They're not going to treat it back to you. That's fine. That doesn't mean, that it devalues you any less by listening to them. That's the PC thing, whatever. It's a thing. I'm more just opinion. You just listen to what the people have to say, even if you disagree with it. That's why... in my house here, I'm sure we're going to get into the topic of I'm sure you've talked about it before, but the president-elect in this house, it's very interesting because my wife is absolutely terrified of what the man is going to do, and while I'm more of a, let's see what he does. I expect he's going to be an ineffectual president, not unlike the one that currently is in the White House, who has got nothing done, but for completely different reasons.
Right.
I'm all over the place on this, but that's kind of where my thought process goes on these things.
No, I think that's interesting because you said that your wife was concerned about it. This is something I've noticed. A very large subject that crops up in our conversations very often is this new wave of PC is dominated by gender politics. Everything is about men and women and how men are evil, women are all scared and hurt, and they're going to be tortured by the evil men. It's funny. I'm trying to find the actual line where, let's see what he does. With Trump, who knows? You can't just. The problem and the reason that the left is, and with the fact that Trump won, and like you said, there's this pushback. I think the pushback has finally gotten to that point where this new PC might start to die now. I think that Trump might be the next 9/11, so to speak, if you know what I mean.
It always takes a large social seismic shift to upset the apple cart and get things moving back towards, away from where it is. Eventually it loops all around again, and then there's usually another societal impact, and I think this is going to be a societal impact for sure.
Right, but people, I've seen this thought echoed a lot, that it's almost like a lot of people think this is sort of like Hitler 2. Like, they honestly think this is Hitler 2. They actually think that we're going to start having internment camps for Muslims and gays and stuff. It's like, okay, you need to bring yourself back down to reality level.
It's not just reality. People are giving too much credence to a man who they think this is what he thinks. He doesn't think that. He is, what was the term I heard the other day on talk radio when I was going out? It was, he's a political chameleon. Whatever will suit him, and he's also he's a salesman. He is the proverbial slimy 1950s U.S. salesman is what he is. He sells, these people want to buy this, so I'm going to sell them this. Most of what he talked about was crap. He was just looking to get elected, just looking for attention. He's done that. So he's done what he wants, and now he's the president, and he's going to probably be I'd say 98% typical Republican president. I don't see him rocking the boat. I don't see him putting Muslims into internment camps like suggested by some people. I don't see him, kicking out 20 million Mexicans. I don't see any of this shit happening. Really, he'll probably be a typical president. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, the world's not going to end. And another thing, and this is something I bring up a lot, is that this is the political pendulum in action. It's sort of inevitable. Since we've started doing politics like this, since the French Revolution, it's just, it goes left, it goes right, it goes left, it goes right, and sometimes the swings are bigger on each side, and sometimes not equal.
I'll just throw something out here. There's if you compared the modern left, or it's called the modern left, with whatever was popping around during the Enlightenment, it would largely be unrecognizable. They wouldn't see it as an extension of their ideological structure.
Right.
If you looked at the modern right and you compared it again to the French right, whatever the hell that is.
What's in power now would be the French right.
No, it wouldn't, because the French right.
Worse. Wow.
Well, no, it's a false it's a false dichotomy. They're not actually related.
Okay.
The French right was in favor of the monarchy, the clergy, the nobility, hereditary, rule, and all that kind of jazz. There isn't anybody on the right or the left who really wants that. Not in relevant numbers. So there's no comparison at all. And then if you look at the left, the old French left was concerned with one man, one vote. It was concerned with meritocracy. It was concerned with hereditary rule not being a thing. It was concerned with the clergy. I mean, they can exist, but they shouldn't have political power. Freedom of the press, all that kind of jazz. And there's not really anybody that disagrees with much of that on the right or the left. The only place where there's possibly some disagreement is on the notion of meritocracy, wherein there's an element of the quote-unquote left that seems to be more interested in equality of outcome rather than in equality of opportunity. And that, my feeling on that, my thought is that it seems to be more in line with Marxism rather than left-right. Marxism is not a right-left thing. It's a completely divergent ideological structure. Because the right and left was a battle between the old nobility and people that wanted to break away from that. And Marxism doesn't like either of those. It doesn't like the Enlightenment rebellion against the nobility or the nobility. And so it's like a third thing, and they're getting pulled off in that kind of happy fun time Bernie Sanders direction. And so I don't know. That's just my thoughts. As I say, I'm just a guy. But that's what's going on in my head.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, it just seems. I'm not really saying when I say the political pendulum that it's necessarily going from the same position to similar positions to similar positions. It's that there's always this dichotomy, whether or not, and I don't really think, and Will, you know this, that it's not a very accurate or useful way of describing people's political positions. And I say I'm center. That's
center what?
I'm center left.
No, but the point is there is no center. It's like,
well, that's what I'm getting at. Is that if you look at it from the way that everybody wants to, the current way it's set up, and you do some tests, then that's where I'll come down to. But I don't use the labels, and it doesn't actually usefully describe anything. It literally is a box. I mean, that's how they fucking draw it. So it's the political pendulum is more so this swing between the dichotomy of the whoever is in power and their main opposition, and it's constantly going to swing between them. And I think that the only way that you're going to sort of stop that is but I don't necessarily know how this is possible.
Why do you want to?
Well, because you're not going. What are you accomplishing by constantly having things? It's basically one step forward, two steps back. Kind of.
No, it's democracy. Okay, so you have rather than seeing them as right and left, see them as two factions, whatever the hell they believe, and one faction gets into power because the last faction was getting either lazy or corrupt or something, right? So new blood comes in. They come and they do whatever the hell they're going to do, and then they get lazy and corrupt, and then the other. So you want to keep it moving. You want to. You don't want a single party society. What they believe is obviously important, but no matter what they believe, you're going to want one party to replace the other with some frequency, just so that it keeps them honest. Otherwise, they get in power and then they just are like, well, I'm the only rational one, and that's why I'm going to blow all your money on hookers and cocaine. And you're not going to do anything about it because, woo, I'm king. Which is sort of what happens whenever you get like one party in power of everything for a really long time. In California, the Democrats are looking to get super majorities in our state Senate. And what you're seeing out of them, they can, whatever comes out of their mouth, but they will put their family members in charge of very important government agencies. They will transfer funds to themselves. And I'm not saying this is like a uniquely Democrat. It's just that when you get such an unassailable political position, the issue is that why not be corrupt, right? There's no price to pay because you can do anything. You can be as corrupt as you want. So, for example, Jerry Brown put like a niece or something of his in charge of a very large natural gas plant in California. And she massively mismanaged it. There was a leak in the plant. And when I say leak, this leak was so extensive that all by itself it was able to cancel out roughly 2 decades worth of carbon controls that had been in place in California. So my state has been paying more for gasoline. We've been paying more for electricity. We've been paying more in taxes and all kinds of stuff in the name of saving the world. saving the world from climate change. And Jerry Brown puts his idiot niece in charge of something, and she all by herself cancels out everything with her incompetence. Now, is she going to go to jail? No.
Fuck no.
There's going to be no accountability whatsoever. She's not going to. She was paid massively overpaid. And California, our state pensions are so massively in the red because this is one of the ways that they've obtained power in my country, or not country, state. We feel like we're kind of a country sometimes, though.
Cal likes it.
Yeah. Is in my state, one of the things that's occurred is our pension debt, I believe, is over 500 billion. It's hard to tell because they lie to us about what the real numbers are. So usually whenever we hear a number, it's kind of good idea to almost assume that it's twice as high as whatever it is, and that tends to be closer to what's accurate. So we could be way up to $1 trillion at this point. But that's just my state. And so, and we've got a massive capital flight because they keep attacking companies that try to do anything, and consequently people just leave. You know, they just go, fine, whatever. And so the tax rolls in California are collapsing, and we send a whole bunch of money to Sacramento. So I live in Southern California. We send a whole bunch of money to Sacramento. They blow it on hookers and cocaine, and so this drought we have in Southern California. Well, we live in a desert. You know, we wouldn't have as many people as we do if it weren't for aqueducts and so forth. But we pay to have water brought to us. And when the money that we paid, you know, our check cleared, they didn't spend any of it really on improving our water infrastructure. What they did was they blew it on bullshit that they care about in Northern California, which is ultimately ephemeral, feel-good, blue-haired stupidity. So that's just my whinge. So I'm trying to commiserate with whatever nonsense you're dealing with, because I guarantee you we're dealing with it down here in our own way.
Right. I don't know. What's your perspective on this sort of thing from up there?
I'd say I agree with Will in that if a party is in power long enough, they will get complacent and stupid. A perfect example in Canadian politics that about a decade ago or so was during an election where the Liberals had spent roughly a decade in power. They were expecting an easy, win. They maybe not like a cakewalk, but they were probably going to take a majority government win, which meant they could rule for another 5 years. And during that election, there was a little thing called the sponsorship scandal that came to light, which was an excessive amount of money that was funneled into Quebec businesses, and it was wasted. And just an insane amount of money was just given away into Quebec. This was actually Paul Martin, the successor to Jean Chrétien, but although a lot of that stuff was probably set up under Chrétien.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But Martin was the man in charge at the time, and they took such a beating from it that led to a minority conservative government. And I remember the people panicking here, and it was like, no, I mean, this is how it works. You have a party for a while. When you either get sick of them or they fuck up, you go to the other guys. And which actually I'll finish this thought where I'm going to sideways into in a moment. But yeah, so that led to that, and then that led to the Conservatives who had a minority government, and then a minority government, and then a minority government, and then they barely got a majority government, and they started doing stuff that, as you said, the political thing doesn't really matter, but just for the sake of referencing it, the left didn't like, and they started introducing more and more things that people felt are they not part of Canadian values? Are they? This whole stuff that was definitely being put in place around anti-Muslim, anti-minority, anti-this, anti-that. It was stuff that was being put in place that people were kind of uneasy about. And then during the last election, where it looked like the Conservatives were probably going to win again, because who were their challengers? They had the NDP, who lost their leader, who was Leighton, to the people of this country, was like I could almost see him as a New Democrat Party prime minister.
It was so close.
People could see that with him, and then he died right after they got to be the official opposition in the previous election. And the NDP's out because Jack Layton was like the only one they gave a shit about. Although Ed Broadbent forever for this guy,
And they
But
went with fucking Mulcair. It's like, oh my god.
I know, right? Mulcair is not. It's like, how can you have less charisma than a guy who had a Hitler stash? I have no idea, but he doesn't. So that's the one party, the major party, because I mean the bloc doesn't matter. The bloc party is a provincial party inside of Quebec. They cannot form the government. They can't get enough seats, so they're not a thing. And then there's the Liberals, who are led by this pretty boy GQ cover model, who doesn't seem to have two brain cells to rub together from half the interviews you see him in. And in the middle of this election that the Conservatives are going towards, what do? They introduce a phone line for people to call in if they see or witness what was termed barbaric acts. They could call into this line. Funny, last I checked, if something illegal is going on, you can call the fucking police. They just created a thing for racist people, or people are just going to go, oh, I want to snitch on the darkies down the street.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Oh, but they're gonna legalize pot, dude.
To be honest, though, the Conservative Party prior was very liberal in their policies.
Well, yeah. Well, Magic. There was the Progressive Conservatives, right?
Some policies. It depends what you're looking at. They
Well, if you think about like those anti-Muslim, like ban the burqa shit, yeah, sure, they were more conservative. But other than that, in terms of economics, they were bad, pretty bad.
It was astounding, some of the things that they did. See, I mean, that's why I don't get people on how Harper was like the worst prime minister we've had in the last billion years. It's like, it's kind of like the same backlash Mulroney took at the end of his tenure.
I think Mulroney was way worse.
See, there's the thing. I think Mulroney, if he's looked at objectively, is going to go down as a better prime minister than Chrétien 50 years from now. He did much better things for this country than Chrétien did. And that's coming from a guy who's voted liberal more than anything else in his life. Chrétien. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but just to finish that little sidebar thing that I was about to go into, talking about elections and what have you, but the famous joke back in the early 90s after the Liberals got their, 193 out of, 280 seats or something, I think it was at the time. They basically dominated the election and just took so many seats. The joke was, the Americans have this political thing all wrong. They've got a two-party system. We've got a one-party system. Because our Conservative Party, which is the other major party in this country, got, was it 2 seats or 3? Like, they got some obscenely low thing because Mulroney made 1 or 2 heinous, stupid moves at the end of the things that he saw the writing on the wall. He bailed and basically threw Kim Campbell on the live grenade on the ground. And the Conservative Party just blew up and fractured for almost, 7 or 8 years before they managed to reform, because they, reform's funny because that was the reform. Sorry, they managed to realign because out of that came the Reform Party and the new PCs.
Right.
And they realized they were never going to get power unless they team back up, so they did. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we've been joined by another Canadian. Magic, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm here.
Oh, hot.
Somewhere from Quebec, I'd be betting by the accent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm from the Nazi part of Canada.
No. He's from Romania.
Whereabouts in Quebec are you located?
I'm in a rural area. I'm not in the big cities.
Yeah, well, where, like, we're talking Western Quebec, Northern, where like just general that way.
I'm closer to Maine.
Okay, so you're south. Okay.
All right, so let's deliberate a bit more on Canadian politics while we can get through it. So, why don't we, just out of curiosity, can you do a short spiel on Chrétien?
Oh, me?
No, Brian. Sorry.
Oh, Chrétien. Thing about Chrétien is that Oh God, he's been a part of Canadian politics for a long time, and he's had his thumb in enough pies that the man has had some successes just by pure longevity. I mean, he was prime minister for what, 9 years, 8 years,
It was a
something
long
like
time.
that.
It was
It was
almost
a
a
long.
decade.
Yeah, basically Martin took over, and I think won one election, then had to go back to the polls not long after that. If not that, he called an election early, figuring that they would win, and that's when the whole sponsorship thing hit. But Chrétien tried his best to how do I put this? He tried his best to make Quebec happy, and as a consequence, he pissed off a lot of people in the West.
Mhm.
And looking at what the result of what sunk the Liberal Party and things along those lines, a lot of that funneling kind of set it was the tinder upon which he set them up for this conflagration around the sponsorship scandal, because there was all this money going to one spot in the country in particular that was not being regulated or watched with any sort of sensible, sane look at things. I mean, again, Will was mentioning about pension issues.
I also
in
use the
California.
phrase hookers and cocaine.
Yes, and speaking of which, if Donald Trump's going to name a secretary of hookers and cocaine, I don't know if he's still alive, but I'd put forward Marion Barry. That's just my suggestion. But
Yeah, we've heard about Marion Barry. That was pretty cool. Well done, Canada.
no, he's not. No, I'm talking about the DC mayor from the 70s, who 70s or 80s, who
Oh wait, I
infamously got caught with a bunch of cocaine and also.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the mayor of Toronto or something.
Oh, no,
That's Rob Ford.
No,
Yeah, wasn't he like? Didn't he have a cocaine habit?
He
crack
did.
cocaine.
How the
Yeah.
fuck can you be that fat and be addicted to cocaine?
Well,
How are you a crackhead?
it's kind of an accomplishment.
Oh, Canada, yeah. We have Ryan Reynolds and a fat crack-addled mayor.
Oh my god. I mean, just getting off topic again, but that's fine. The Rob Ford, or as I saw him referred to, I can't remember where I saw it, and it caught on really well after that, was Rob Ford, or as Toronto calls him, the Chris Farley tribute mayor, because that's basically what he was.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
to a fucking T. The man was a klutz. The man seemed like he was on drugs. So was Chris Farley, and he was so fat. It's like, how are you alive? No. Anyway,
In a van
Oh.
down by the river.
pretty much, yeah. And then Rob died, and it was like, oh, this is no longer funny. Well, you know what? No, I take that back. It's still
Yeah,
Yeah, it's still
exactly.
funny.
I was gonna say, yeah,
It's still kind of funny.
it's actually kind of funnier.
Oh god.
You just have to be ruthless enough with the humor, but it's there.
I like my dark humor. I'm all right with that.
Don't blink, Canada. Don't blink. It's funny.
Magic, why don't you throw your ring into this? I know you got some different opinions on the whole Canadian politics thing.
Well, I think that Canadian are like a subsequence of Eurofacts, basically. Because we have the same system as the British and pretty much the same like positive right instead of negative like in the Americans.
That's
the
true.
immigrants have. So
Well, I mean,
I'm
our
very
children
much
are
against that because it's contributing to the progressive stack. So,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, I think a big problem that we have is that, if you go and you read, say, our version of the Constitution, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, established by Trudeau's father, you read that, and it basically reads like, oh, this is nice. Oh, we have this. Oh, we get that. We get this. And then at the end it says, you have all this stuff until you don't, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until you don't. So,
Until we change our mind, right? So
Yeah,
we used to
exactly.
have a Belgian in the group, and we went through the Belgian Constitution, and it was pretty cool because it was this long list of cool rights, and after every single one of them, it said, unless the government says you don't have it for whatever reason. Every single one of them, it was entirely arbitrary and could be at will taken away just by anybody in government because they feels like it.
Because they feels like it. Yeah, I'd buy that.
Yeah.
so
as
yeah.
a sort of a general question to both Magic and to Brian, do you guys think, will Canada ever amount to anything in the coming, decades? Will we become something more than just America's hat? The America where everybody's nicer and slightly crazier. is there any way for Canada to differentiate itself and
part two of that question: if California secedes, can they join Canada?
no.
What
No.
a weird map
Because-
that will be. Like
because-
Alaska to America and California to
Oh.
Canada.
Yeah.
There'd be so many flip flops. It'd be amazing.
Oh, they fit right in then.
Yep.
But yeah, what do you guys think? Is there a way that we can sort of will we always just be that sort of other
I will
America
answer
that's-
your question by another question, Guinness.
Okay. All right.
Are you willing to eat 1 or 2 meal less in order to buy Canadian first?
That's a good. Probably not. So
There you
yeah,
go. So
there's
sit
the
down.
answer. Yeah, you're probably
Get the
right.
fuck
about
out of here.
that. No, Magic makes a good point. I mean, I experienced this a lot more than most Canadians because I'm on the border, right on the border. Literally, you can't be any further south than being in Canada still. And I think the Ambassador Bridge is the second busiest commercial bridge in the world. I know in North America. So like the amount of shit that we'll manufacture down here, even in my town, and then we send it right over to America, and they make it into shit, and then they sell it to us at a rate where the amount that was used it's no longer the same, right? We're paying more for the stuff that we made.
Oh, I'm
Then
sorry.
we
We made a
should.
profit.
No, it's our fault. We're stupid.
No, but don't be mad at us,
No,
sweetie.
no.
We're making a profit. Come on, it's
I mean,
capitalism.
it will be hard to not trade with like the fellow country that's right down to us. So I don't have problem dealing with that. The problem
not-
is
it's not trading in general.
subsidizing, for example, France for fucking cheese and wine. We can produce cheese and an ample level, right?
You'd hope so.
So why should we subsidize those fucking Frenchie over there?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that is because Canada has and still does, for some reason, feel obligated to its sister countries in Europe, And I don't know. I think that's the biggest difference culturally between America and Canada is that we still have this strange loyalty to the Queen. I was having this argument with Sun King last night. He's like, "Oh, if the British government wanted to, it could just dissolve your government in one click." I'm like, "No." I mean, we probably would because we're giant fucking cowards. But I like Canada. It's independent. It has been since technically since '67, but officially since like the early '50s. And so we are supposed to be as independent as the U.S., but we still sort of act like the Britain of
Like fucking plebs, man.
yeah.
Oh.
I don't know.
I just want to say that they definitely couldn't do it in one click. They'd actually have to read the user agreement and click "I agree to these conditions" and then click. So we're talking like 3 probably.
3
Yeah.
clicks total, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting you say that because Britain or England, I should say, has their own concerns at home about countries and things that they'd be more concerned about bringing into the fold than they would Canada. The bigger thing is you're talking about, are we going to be anything more than America's hat? It's better to be America's hat than be, you know what, we're going to willfully piss off the Americans who are eroding as a world power and will no longer be the world power probably by the end of my lifetime. You don't want to be pissing those guys off. We're tied to them at the hip. And if we sever that, we're probably going to bleed to death, or they're going to come in and forcefully reattach us at the hip, or worse, attach us elsewhere. So,
Right.
no, we're always going to be tied with the U.S. because there's no one to the north of us, no one to the west or east of us. We're buddies, just by geographical.
Well, there's Russia. I mean,
Again, with the ice melting, there's no easy connection over to those guys. Without that actual land connection, it's just too expensive to be super friends with anyone else, for the lack of a better way to say it. We're tied to them, and if they do well, we do well. If we do bad, that's not a big deal to them, but them doing bad is really bad for us, even if we are giving them our resources and then buying back products from them at an inflated price, because everyone's got to make money, right?
well, yeah, but the proximity is there too. So I have no problem dealing with the Americans mostly. It's
No, I don't either. I think
abroad that is becoming a problem.
yeah, if what I'm sort of getting at is maybe if Canada would act a little bit more like America rather than continuing to try and be America plus Britain.
Well, I'll just throw in the big bone of contention, so far as I think we understand it, between Canada and the United States, is the your petrochemical industry. That I guess mostly the environmentalists in the United States did not want you guys to be able to pipe your oil into the United States because, oh no, people are burning carbon. That's never happened. Holy shit. But if we stop the Canadians from doing it, we will save the world.
Well, they have a problem with anything when you look at
well,
it. Oh, solar panel burn birds. So.
No, yeah. What you're referring to is, so for example, in California, we've basically said yes to everything. And consequently, when they've run out of things to whine about, they invent new things. So we built these massive solar power facilities, and they use thermal solar, which is uses like mirrors and stuff. And if a bird happens to fly between the Death Star beam of one of these solar things between the collector and the acres of fucking mirrors, it will immediately turn into a turkey dinner in midair. And so that's not great, but I mean it's only like a bird or two a day at most. It's really
if you try to implement like nuclear power, you're killing fish.
Yeah,
there's no end to it.
Right. So they'll whine about something. Like, it doesn't matter. Like if we were all like in trees being miserable and cold, they'd probably whine about the poop that was falling out of the tree. Something. they really are they're just whining.
Now, Will, I was going to say something like that. You need to be really forward thinking. And from what I recall from when I visited California about a decade ago, granted I was only in LA, Santa Monica, that sort of area.
That's where I am.
I was down for E3, so you can if you're in that area, you can answer this. But I noticed that there are a lot of homeless people there just because it doesn't get ridiculously cold in the winter by any means.
Yeah.
So why not move these people here? Let the turkey dinners fall down to them, and you're feeding the homeless. Problem. You're literally you're killing multiple birds with one energy shot. You're good to go.
Yeah, I mean it's funny, but they would find a new thing to complain about, and so
I understand. And then that's the.
I'm actually hoping that a whole bunch of them literally starve to death, or not starve to death, freeze to death in Dakota. Because they're protesting the last 2 miles of the pipeline.
Yeah.
So the pipeline is basically built. It's just It just needs to connect. It's like somebody has run an extension cable all the way through a building, and he's walking. He's the last 5 feet to connect it to a wall socket. And Gladys from accounting is like grabbed some office supplies, written something on some fucking highlighters, and is just storming back and forward with her fucking jowls, and won't let anybody connect into the goddamn wall. And it's like, this is terrible. You need to go. You need to leave immediately.
What's the reason for it?
Because
it's on Indian land.
No, they don't. They'll find a reason. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, so my understanding from the Canadians is they're upset that because kind of the deal we have between us, as far as I understand it, is we get first call on your resources, right? But we will buy them all. So,
you know what? I don't know how true that used to be true. The superpower to be, or the isn't putting the superpower that's going to be in charge of this world over in Asia has gotten a pretty plum deal on our resources.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you.
No, not good for us. It's a pretty good deal for China.
No, well, I know, but that's good for us too because it makes you mad at China, which will make you happier with us later. You don't understand. We're very genial fellows, but we are kind of sitting there, and there are like calculations going on in our heads, and we will smile and we'll go, yeah, okay, have fun with China for a while, guys.
But so the other thing I was going to finish up with my other joke to make, you said inventing stuff to whine about, then California would fit in with Canadians pretty well.
Yeah.
And the third thing about the pipeline, I wouldn't get that you know, I mean, if you're a believer this pipeline should be finished, then I wouldn't worry too much about that because
No, it will.
the man coming in is going to reverse that decision to not go forward with it. And from what I understand, he has economic stakes in one of the businesses involved with this whole pipeline business. So
Cool.
it's going to happen. It's just it's been stalled temporarily. They can fight it and protest all they want, but in the end, that thing's going in.
Well, I
by
mean,
hook or by crook, it's going in.
we've already broken OPEC. I don't know if you guys have been watching that. OPEC basically is in full face-saving mode right now, like pretending like we can still control the world market, guys. We swear. No, you can't. And so it's pretty funny, and you know we saw them blink.
Now it's too late.
It doesn't. Like just the smile and the ruthlessness sets in. Now we're going to help them, and we're just going to keep helping them until they don't exist anymore. We are in the give the natives blankets mode with these people.
Yeah, it's a clusterfuck with all this the Canadian system. I mean, I don't know.
But are the Canadians pissed about getting their pipelines delayed? Because that's what I was hearing.
The way I've looked at it, I've heard it is we're actually getting kind of a sweet deal, or at least, I mean, it's not like a lot of Canadians I've heard. It's like, oh, it's gonna be just like the resources. They're gonna just take it all and you know they're gonna sell back to us for shitty prices. It's like, I don't think so. From what I looked at, it looks pretty lucrative considering our past deals. For what I mean, I think it'll be good for in terms of our economics, and because if we keep sending our oil to all these different countries, the U.S. is always going to be our like Brian was saying, it's always going to be our biggest ally. So why not continue to build a stronger relationship with them? And I like I said, I think we should be more like them anyway. So I don't know. I have no problem with it. I've heard a lot of Canadians that are complaining about it, but most of their reasons are relatively bullshit. So.
I just wanted to put in real quick that you're asking what Canadians think of it. You might have the wrong sampling of Canadians to ask about this because Canada in particular, I know this is actually starting to show through in the US as well now and more recently, but this country has always been a collection of regional concerns.
Yep.
Like big time regional concerns. There's BC, there's the West, there's
the center of the universe.
You could even split the West a little bit. Kind of, you divide Saskatchewan about in half to Manitoba, which I'm not sure what you'd even call it. I guess the prairies. Yeah. You could call that the prairies, I guess. And then you've got the center of the universe, as the West likes to call Ontario. Yeah. And then there's Quebec, and then there's the Maritimes, which is the provinces on the East Coast. And there's always this sort of division within politics, concerns, economic, social, even psychological. This country is a collection of fractured people.
Yeah.
And, the people who would really care about that pipeline being finished is the province that has been riding an oil boom for however long, that has kind of taken a step back and had such weight. And going back to that, you know, you get so mad at the guy in power, you'll put someone else in. The very strong conservative base of this country in Alberta put socialists into their provincial legislature, and they're now kind of waking up and looking across the bed hungover like, who did I just get in bed with? What the fuck did I just do? And so
the gap-toothed grin at early in the morning, and you're just like, no!
Exactly. And that's the people who care, and they're the ones that are really want this thing finished because their economy has taken a real shit dive with the price of oil going so far down. They want this thing in. They want oil prices to go back up. They want the thing. So this whole OPEC thing you're talking about relates right into that. This is a big deal for them.
Those prices are never going up again.
You say this, but scarcity of resource and such, that it's inevitable this shit's going back up.
Okay, peak oil.
I don't believe that we're at peak oil, despite what they say or we're going to be.
I'm just saying, since 1919, they've been like, we're going to run out eventually.
We are going to run out eventually, but the point is that the estimates they're basing on are what can we access at this time. Technology means you can access more, and they're going to be, you know what? Fuck that area here in Alaska. Fuck the ocean here. Fuck this. Fuck that. We're gonna be able to go deeper. We're gonna go here. We can go this. Antarctica. fuck that, let's get all the oil out of there. You know, that up in the Arctic, they're going to start getting even more than they get now. There's plenty of oil still around. It's just that numbers that don't include, they don't know where it all is either.
Yeah, but there's also sort of a ticking clock here, because at some point, I mean, the technology is evolving very rapidly for competing elements. And at some point, people are going to be like, so we got all this oil, and everyone's going to be like, and I have fusion.
Fusion would be fine. Cold fusion. Whoever invents cold fusion can just, you know.
Oh, no, cold fusion can go suck a dick. Actually, no, I'm not kidding. What we're actually looking at is room temperature or high temperature superconductors. And when you have those, and we're getting closer and closer to that, you can sustain very powerful magnetic fields with basically no energy input, because you just charge up your magnets using superconductors, and then it doesn't cost anything to sustain the system, and you can maintain containment on basically an artificial sun.
That'd be awesome.
Which is basically, and that's actually not that far out. We can do it right now. The problem is that we don't have the superconductors, so you have to dump a whole bunch of electricity into the magnets to keep them going, and the artificial sun does not generate enough energy to contain itself absent the superconductor. So there you go. That's where we're going with that.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close, actually. I think. I would not be surprised in the next, I don't know, 50 years or something. I don't want to be more, because the thing is that, you know, everyone's like, oh, in 10 years. But that is something that's looking like. And the applications of superconductors are like beyond, I think, what most people appreciate. Like there's a zillion like crazy fucking George Jetson technologies that suddenly just become viable the instant you have it. It's like, oh yeah, no, we actually invented all this stuff back in the 40s. It's just we didn't have the superconductor. And he invented that. Oh, that's awesome. They plug that in, bam, boom, Jetsons.
Going right back to Canada real quick, I got from the chat. Alberta is going to be stuck paying the bill for the country. If Alberta wants, we'll take them in. How does that ring?
Yeah, it makes sense. That they're as long as the oil holds up for them, they are a huge engine in the economic cog. I'm just curious to see where it's going to go when eventually, you know, the gritty oil there runs out. It's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? The riding the coattails of this sort of the oil boom in Canada, like you say, it's not going to last forever. At some point, we're going to have to, and this is why I said, you know, is there any way that we can establish ourselves? I mean, Canada's such a vast country. Why don't we? And it's like, and, you know, going on what Will said, fucking Jetson technology. At some point, why don't we use the rest of this fucking country? You know, we live in plenty of cold places already. Doesn't get that much colder.
Can I just say something from parched California? I've noticed you have water.
We have a lot of that.
And I want it. I will pay more money for it than you would conceive of. And I want it.
We'll just cut out one of the lakes and send it to you.
I want a pipe, and it's not like you're going to run out of it. You know, like the water's going to keep coming out of the sky and landing in your and it would just spill out into the ocean anyway. I mean, just let me have it, please.
See, that's funny. Funny you say that, because I mean, you look at where are they getting the water from now? Is it not the Colorado River? Isn't that the big water that's being piped out to California now?
There are old ladies all across the Southwest that we have switchblades against their throats, and they give us what we want. And we love them. We give them a little peck on the cheek, and it's a great relationship.
But see, what I was going to say was that if you look at I believe it's the Colorado River is the main waterway. Looking at that when I was in this is a decade old at this point, so from when I was in school. But a thing doing my post-secondary education in geography as my major, because that was really useful. The Colorado River has dropped significantly both in volume and height and speed and all these different measurements based on just the amount of water that's being taken out of it, which leads to a quote I once read that is a little oversimplified, obviously, but it was the wars in the 20th century will fought over oil, and wars in the 21st century will be fought over water. just based on
So-
based on importance. But that
so
obviously is not
San
going to
Diego-
hold true because until oil is completely gone, that's always going to be a primary driver.
San Diego is considering drinking their own pee.
But isn't San Diego also a fairly big party town? So like they get a nice like contact high, would they not?
Well, yeah, you'd also be drinking other people's diabetes medication.
Yeah.
Drugs are
Oh,
drugs.
sweet sex change drugs in my water. Yes.
Will, I don't know how many times I have to tell you to say that word right, or I'll smack you. Say it right.
Diabetes.
Thank you.
Diabetes drugs.
Let's jump away from Canada
Good.
and the oil a little bit. Let's get into why don't we get into video games for a little bit, just because that's another big thing.
That's my cue to get out anyway.
Oh.
Are you taking off, Magic? Are we
Yeah,
can go
I'm
into
taking
something
it
else if you want. All right,
Have a
take it easy, Magic.
great day.
Peace.
No.
Have a good one.
All right, so Brian, how long have you been playing game? What was your first system?
First one I owned or first one I played?
Played.
Probably either my uncle's ColecoVision or my other uncle's Intellivision. Because I'm old, just so you know. That dates me just more than a little. Yeah. First thing I remember playing was ColecoVision, but I know I also played my other uncle's
Handfuls of
Intellivision.
quarters at the arcade. That's me.
Since I grew up in a small little town, there was maybe 8 arcade machines at any given time in the town, usually at this convenience store or that convenience store or at a mall. Yes, used to actually have a mall.
I was a arcade terrorist.
Ah, okay.
And I would terrorize my parents until they gave me a handful of quarters.
Nice.
And then this little 5-6-year-old boy would run off to the arcade and jam all of his money into the arcade machine and then immediately go back to his terrorist activities to get more money to jam in the machine.
It's funny you guys bring up arcades. For me, as a kid who grew up in the early 2000s, born in the mid 90s, I was on the tail end of arcades and arcade rooms. There weren't many around when I was growing up. There were a few, but there was this place. I don't know if this is a business. I don't know how widespread it is, but there's a place down here called Excess Family Fun Center. Is that a chain? You know that, Brian?
Never heard of it myself.
But it's basically just you'd have glow golf and laser tag and a crap load of games, that
The
kind of
usual thing. Yeah, I got you.
And so I would go to that place quite often, and I used to play all kinds. I used to love the sit-down racers and stuff like that. I used to play a lot of those. But for me, it was I grew up with the N64 and that era. The first console I ever played was the SNES, but it was at the end of its life.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. You're not saying Nintendo 64, right? It's Nintendo 64!
Actually, I was that fucking kid. I literally was that kid. I bet if there was a video of me...
Not figuratively, but literally, that was you in the video?
No. Figuratively, literally. I was, if you had a
Literally,
video...
guys, literally. I will literally die.
If you had a video of me from that day, it would have been uncanny because I remember it was probably the year, it was Christmas of 2000 or 2001, and I got the N64 and I was like, oh my God, screamed it in front of my parents and stuff. And first game I ever played was I can't remember if I played the Super Nintendo first. I know I played a Super Nintendo. I never owned one. My friend across the street owned one, but I'm 90% sure that the first game I ever played was Ocarina of Time. So that game is
you
cemented into my brain.
You poor bastard.
Oh, I love it, man. Oh,
terrible game.
oh that'll be a good conversation.
What, have you never heard me rant about how that's an empty, boring game that people overrate to hell and back?
I understand that actually I haven't watched all your talk throughs. Mostly there's a lot of games that I'm not interested in. I just go for the ones that I know. But so I don't know. Maybe I have and I don't remember. I don't know. So I would like to hear it again. But for me, I understand a great deal of it is nostalgia. But what I will say is that, and I will defend vehemently, because I'm not going to defend Ocarina of Time as an amazing game very hard. But I will defend my other amazing classic, and this game I might like it better now than Ocarina of Time, is Majora's Mask. I fucking adore Majora's Mask.
I've never played that one. I hear great things about it, but then I hear from the Ocarina of Time fans about how that game is just so highly overrated. So who knows?
Majora's Mask is a very different kind of game. It's probably, for one thing, Hyrule and the world of Ocarina of Time is very feudal, as most of Zelda was. And then you get into Termina, and it's this sort of weird world. There's scientists, there's like steam technology occasionally, there's politics that are like there's cities and politics going on, and sort of race commentary even. There's a lot of stuff going on in that game. That game is a lot of commentary going on, and I think it's also probably the darkest game in the franchise that I've played anyway. And it's sort of, I don't know, it brings a feeling in me that I don't get from any other Zelda game, but it still feels like a Zelda game, and it brings me back to that time. It has this sort of, this eerie, it's nostalgia too, but I can go back to that game today, and it still feels so unique, so different. Just the way you progress through the game is very different from most other Zelda games. I mean, the mask thing is also very, very different. And it's very cool being able to be a Zora and be a Goron and stuff like that. But getting away, I don't want to spend too much time on Zelda. Well, actually, I want to hear one more thing. I want to hear you rant about Ocarina of Time, and then I want to get a little away from Zelda. So go ahead, rant about Ocarina of Time.
I guess my big problem with Ocarina of Time is that it is just said that people are like, oh, it's this wonderful, huge world you can explore, and you can do this and do that. And it's like, it's basically just one. It's almost like, it's kind of a grown-out sort of hub world. The field is your hub, and if you just wanted to make your hub the most boring, empty, destitute place for you to just kind of go, oh, I'm sure having fun walking across this field doing nothing for 10 minutes while I get from one place to the other. Yes, some of the dungeons are fun and good, but you spend more time trudging back and forth doing dick fucking all in that game. And they're like, well, what about the horse? You get the horse to make it faster. It's like, then give me the horse from the start.
Don't make you get the horse like 3/4 of the way through the game.
Don't make me walk across this field 106 times. Well, okay, but then nighttime you get to fight stuff. Yeah, and then I can't get into anything, so I got to sit out here with a thumb up my ass. It's just, there's some good stuff, but that field, oh my god, that fucking field. It makes me despise that game to no fucking end. And then people go, yeah, you like Wind Waker. Yeah, I like Wind Waker, but that's because the music was good. I liked the sailing. I actually liked that there was a little bit to do in there, even if it was random bullshit that happened half the time. It was kind of fun to map out a place. The field is this one little small thing that you could actually map out stuff on the ocean. But I have to agree, having to stop to change your wind direction.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Still,
but
if I'm going to play a 3D Zelda, I would play Wind Waker.
Wind Waker is pretty good, and then let's not even fucking talk about Twilight Princess. Anyway,
Twilight Princess.
Moving on to let's sort of get into something Will can get into. What's sort of your genre? Because I know you play a lot of Twitch and you play a lot of like old NES. Is that all you play in your downtime, or do you play other stuff? I know that Will and I are very much into, and he goes back further than I, but RTSs.
Yeah, no, I'll do RTSs, I'll do strategy games, I'll do FPS games, I'll do anything where I can yell at 12-year-olds is always fun. Let's see. Oh my god, so many newspapers I get to throw at 12-year-olds. It's great. Let's see, what else? I don't know. I'm open to most things that seem like they have some kind of strategic or tactical depth. I also like things that with a story. I'll play that single player, and I'll just do that and not pay an enormous amount of attention. Like, oh yeah, okay, so you killed the evil wizard. But it's just general stuff. I tend to avoid games that are purpose built for consoles because of racism. No, they're inferior. And come on, guys, console realism. They're trash. And so yeah, anything designed for the console, I tend to not like.
Just a quick question. When you say designed for console, you're referring to from what era forward?
Everything. Well, actually, wait. The old stuff prior to the Xbox, I would say, was fine because they weren't poaching PC developers prior to that point in time.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was around the 90s when it became.
When they started poaching PC developers to make console games, I felt betrayed, and I treat them like Benedict Arnold now. It's like, oh, okay, fine. Well, next time I see you, I'm shooting you in the face.
So you're referring to Xbox Xbox era or just before that, like PlayStation 64? What would it be?
Basically,
Xbox. Is that what we're looking at?
Prior to the Xbox, they weren't taking that many
Okay.
PC devs, and it's not like I'm just fine with the PlayStation because the PlayStation is also poaching PC devs. They started doing that almost immediately. So I just prior to that point, they were kind of two separate universes that didn't interact with each other, and I felt that was okay. What irritates me to any extent is that there was sort of a PC gaming ecosystem that got fucked up by Microsoft and Sony in particular, and I don't like what they've done because what they've done is took in a lot of PC gaming tropes and they've simplified them. They
want to release games for all three consoles. They want to be like, here's the game for PC,
I know what they want to
Xbox,
do.
And PlayStation.
They want to fill their yacht with sleuths and cocaine. But my problem
Not whores and cocaine.
Well, because if you got enough money, you get the yacht, and then you just get sleuths. You don't even have to pay for them anymore.
That's a good point.
It's a sloot mobile. You do still have to pay for the cocaine, though.
Okay, so the reason I asked you that question is I'm going to tell a story after you're done in relation to interesting viewpoints on that from people who former friends of mine. Anyway, go ahead with your thing. I just wanted to see if it would fit.
Yeah, so there's a variety of things going on. So one thing is everything has been simplified down to like 5 buttons, which was not how things were going on the PC prior to the consoles coming in and fucking with our shit. It's like, oh, here's this game. You will press 60 buttons to make things work. And that sounds complicated, but it made perfect sense. And it was like, oh, you can't handle this? Well, maybe that's because you're stupid. Did you consider that? The other thing that was neat was there was an insistence on not being a rampant noob. So if you
games didn't hold your hand,
if you couldn't aim for shit, if you were like, I do not know how to read, then the game would be like, well, this is why you lose. And increasingly what they're doing with this console infusion is they're making everything simple to the point where it feels like the game isn't interesting anymore in a lot of cases. I'm okay with like a robust tutorial or something. That's fine. But ultimately what tends to happen with this is you start seeing, massive auto aim. You start seeing regenerating health. You start seeing like the whole like cover-based FPSs can all go fucking kill themselves with their own dicks ripped off and garroted around their throats. I don't care. They're the worst. The FPS games I liked were like back in the old like Quake days. Where it's like, oh, you were hiding behind something. Well, eat rockets around that corner. Now you are dead. That because I know where you are. Oh, you're hiding behind a rock. Well, congratulations, I've blown that rock up. Now you're dead. And yeah, so I don't like that, and I think that maybe we're starting to come away from that as the console community gets a little more sophisticated. Maybe a lot of them are actually starting to play some PC games, and I'm noticing some changes in the culture, which is positive, but it's been a long fucking ride, and I've not enjoyed the plebby fucking console people. And I know I sound like such a stereotypical PC master race.
PC master race.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing, okay? I just wanted my games. I didn't care what they did anywhere else. If they want to have their console Banana Republic over there, that's fantastic. Kill each other in the jungle. That's amazing. I'm going to be over here just on Mars. People on Mars.
All right, Brian, you want to tell your story?
Sure. My story to that relation was 2 former friends of mine used to argue about this incessantly. One from the viewpoint of he has always been a console guy and does not understand how anyone could ever play a first-person shooter with a mouse and a keyboard. To him, it's this controller is the height of perfection. And the other guy plays consoles and whatever, but he used to talk about the PC and how you can run better things, you get more complicated games. He used to talk about some mech fighting game he had that, each thing on the keyboard essentially did something and how crazy and amazing this game was. I forget the name of the game.
Mech Warrior.
Is it just original MechWarrior? I don't know what it was, but
yeah, no, you got to press a button to control your thermal loads. You got to redistribute power.
That sounds like
managing. Yeah, you're managing all your weapon loadouts. You're cycling things back and forth, and the game was slow and ponderous. Like
that's what he said.
Yeah, but it was like you had to manage everything. It was like resource management and blowing shit up at the same time.
Nice.
Doesn't sound bad to me. So, and then his argument back the console guy would be, yeah, but you're spending how much money to run the latest game, and you have to update your thing constantly, do this and whatever. Yeah. And the argument back was, well, you're buying a new system every 4 years. Or it goes, yeah, but I don't have to upgrade or do anything of this style. I don't have to buy new components to do this or do that. I'm thinking, first of all, that existed on consoles. There used to be attachments and upgrades and other things that went with them long before, this was a thing. But second of all, you're still paying to play online, which most PC games you don't have to. So I didn't get the cost argument in the first place. But I had a front row seat for this argument. Yeah. It went on ad nauseum for let's see, about 7 years before they fucked off into the mist. And it's interesting just to hear you laid out these things, and I'm like, okay, he's definitely on that side of this thing.
No, it's worse than that because, okay, so with the economic argument, you're going to have a PC regardless, right? I mean, it's like, oh, well, I don't need to have a word processing and taxing and pornography downloading machine because I have a console. No, you're going to get a PC anyway.
Or a phone, but yeah.
Not as great for the fapping, my man. Not as great for the fapping. You will have a PC or a Mac, whatever. But you're going to have something with a large screen and a keyboard and probably a mouse. It's going to happen. And then what you got to really look at is what is the difference between the cost of buying that and the cost of buying that can play the game. And generally speaking, it's about as much or less as what the console itself costs all by itself. And therefore, the whole economic argument evaporates into nothing. Yeah. And that, no, I'm sorry. Ruthless. I will punch you in the dick. I don't care. The whole thing with the console thing, they have all these fallacious arguments, and you go through it all, and then at some point they put their arms in front of their face, and then they say, stop hitting me, and that's a trap. What you have to do is beat them to death, rip their body apart, and bury the parts in different corners of consecrated ground so they cannot recoalesce.
No, even better. You decompose them into their original elements and then make a PC out of them.
No, just no.
Jesus, Brick killed a guy.
Mm-mm.
Yep. I don't know. So for me, I only got into PC gaming maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And before that, I was full-on console peasant. Like I said, I grew up with primarily the N64, the GameCube. I never had an Xbox, the original Xbox. I want to call it the Xbox One, but
Xbox.
So stupid. Why? I'm sorry. Why the fuck would you name the third console the Xbox One?
That's not its name. It's the X-Bone. Come on.
No, because their notion, and you saw this in their promotional material, was you don't need to buy a Blu-ray player. You do not need to buy a little Netflix box. You do not need to buy any of these other little doodads. Buy an Xbox, and it will be the center of your entertainment experience. It is the Xbox One. You didn't see them do that?
I remember.
Everyone,
no.
Yeah, you were watching me. You're just like, wow, You've climbed completely up your own asshole, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
This is a fucking corporate Ouroboros. Look at this guy. He's eating his own ass.
When I was probably 9 years old, my dad had a PS1 and a PS2, and I always had the Nintendo consoles. And I remember watching my dad play Medal of Honor and Half-Life. And I was always like, oh man, these games look so cool, but I wasn't allowed to play. I don't think I was necessarily not allowed to play them, especially at my dad's house. But I didn't. I don't know, I didn't have a PlayStation, and it was in his room. I couldn't go to his room and play his game. So at a certain point, he stopped playing games, and he gave me his PlayStation 2, which is what he had at this point. And so I got to play, at that time, I think I played Grand Theft Auto Vice City for the first time as like a 8 or 9 year old, and my world fucking changed. Everything just went out the window, and oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And it was that for quite a while. I just was obsessed with Grand Theft Auto, and anything violent and had guns and that I could get my hands on in consoles I was all over it. I was still into fantasy and I would still play every Zelda game, but I would mostly play a lot of like really like shooter games. And then
that's funny you say that, because from my own viewpoint, I'm sure you've heard me grouse on about this endlessly, but for me, the reason I really moved away from buying new consoles, I mean, I got suckered by the whole Wii thing at the start of that and realized, this isn't that good a system. And after that, I was out. But before that, from the Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube era, I really didn't do a whole lot of buying anything or new games, because everything had turned into, it's got to have a gun in it and shooting people in the head to be good. And it was like, oh, what happened to my gaming? I miss my gaming, and that's why I've stagnated. I mostly just play old classic stuff now.
Right.
It's not for me.
Right.
I don't know. I got into and this is, I wouldn't know if I would consider it a guilty pleasure. I'm trying to decide right this moment if I should defend it or not. But I got into pretty early Halo. Or no, actually, it wouldn't be too early. It was Halo 3 was the first one I got into. It was 2007. I remember the campaign surrounding it being huge, and that was when I got the Xbox 360, and that was why I got the Xbox 360, because the Halo 3 campaign, as I'm sure all you guys both remember, was fucking retarded. And
you're asking me to remember something I never played, but all right.
You don't remember the hype though? It was literally, you couldn't avoid it.
The hype. What was this? The finish the fight stuff?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to have played it to know what the hype is.
I
the
do recall that now. Yes.
And so I got swept up in that as like an 11, 12-year-old, and I was like, okay, I gotta play this game. And I remember, this is funny, I was so obsessed with Halo 3 at the time that in my 6th grade class, I gave a presentation. We had to do, I don't remember what the presentation, what the subject was, but for whatever reason, I did Halo. And I did like a Bristol board with pictures of it, and I described the plot and the story. And I didn't like, oh yeah, you get to kill a bunch of dudes, yeah, violence, yeah. I mainly talked about the story because I thought the story was really interesting. And I got into so much fucking trouble. I was basically put on fucking watch. Like, holy shit, this kid's gonna shoot the school because he plays Halo. So that was a thing that happened.
I was actually about to say the exact same thing. You didn't?
Right? I know, it's surprising, right? But I got really into Halo. I went back and I played Halo 2 and I played Halo 1. And I'm not so much into first-person shooters anymore. In fact, I've been trying to make myself buy Doom. I literally stared at Doom on sale for like 80% off on the Black Friday sale. I'm like, should I get it? Should I get it? And I didn't. And so I haven't played it. I've been out of the FPS thing for a while, but I had this period where I was just obsessed with everything FPS, everything shooter, everything, if it had, like I said, Grand Theft Auto, so I loved that sort of a type of game. And then around about, let me think, because I went through 3 Xbox 360s, fucking 3 of them. I mean, they were terribly built. They were so bad. The Red Ring, oh my God, was that the bane of my existence. I had all 3 consoles Red Ring, and it's funny because I saved 2 of them with the towel trick.
Yeah.
And then the third one, I couldn't fix it. And so I gave up on it. I still have the hard drive somewhere, so if I ever buy an old one for some reason, if I ever buy an old one, it's going to be play Fable 2 because Lionhead refuses to port it to PC. And so after about that time, the third Xbox and the Xbox One was about to come out, I was like, it was down to, okay, new generation is coming out. Do you buy the next console? And I was like, I'm finally going to do PC. And I did it. And it's just so much better. I can play. There's almost nothing.
Suddenly, I come to America. It is so much bigger. It is so much better. It is not like our country.
I love this country. It's so great.
Oh, you have such big hearts. You have so much opportunity here in America.
So many video games I can play.
Oh,
now.
yeah,
God,
exactly. And they're just like, oh, more of these fucking people off the boat. Jesus Christ. Build a wall. God damn it.
On the other border, here you go.
Yeah. Lock them in their console peasantry forever. Just stay away.
So I started playing PC, and it's like there's only, like I said, Fable 2 is the only thing that comes to mind that I cannot play on the PC. I can find a way to play anything else, but I cannot. That's like the one game just fucking doesn't exist on PC. Nobody can do it. So I mean. And even with the games, and that's, I'm talking about games I want to play. I'm sure there's still a bunch of Xbox 360, PS3 games you can't play on PC, and obviously you can't play the ones that are on the current console generation. But as we all know, emulator technology is usually like, I don't know, 8 years behind what's going on. So, a few years down the line, you will be able to play those games. And it's like your console isn't going to keep getting, if you know what you're doing with a PC, you can have the same PC and continue upgrading it for, a decade if you're smart enough. And you don't have to constantly buy a new one. And you don't even have to buy games anymore. You don't have to go anywhere. I mean, they're trying to do that with consoles, but I mean, the fact that, like with what Will was talking about, these sort of merging between console games and PC games. Well, now console games are as big as PC games, if not bigger. They're fucking huge. So you have a 500 gigabyte hard drive for your, Xbox One, and
It's fucking
GTA
absurd.
5, and GTA 5 is 85 gigs. And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like a fifth of my hard drive for one game.
Just buy a
Fuck
PC.
off. Exactly.
Honestly, at that point.
It's retarded. So, I mean, I don't really see any reason to play console anymore, other than the only reason is if I want to play a Fable 2 or a game that I can't wait for. And so it's like, I don't have anything like that. I was, like with Halo, going back to Halo real quick. Halo's a franchise that, man, am I disappointed by it. Because I followed Bungie from Halo 3 onto Halo Reach, and then when they gave it to 343, if you don't know, really quick, the Microsoft had control of Bungie for a long time, and they made Marathon. Maybe you've heard of those games. And Microsoft has said you have to make this amount of Halo games, and Halo Reach was the last of those games, like an album contract kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And after that ran up, like Bungie was like, okay, this is our last Halo game that we have to make. We're gonna put all our effort into it. And Halo Reach was really, really fucking good. And then they're like, okay, we're going to send some of the people that have been with the team with Bungie that are really a big part of Halo. We're going to put them in a new studio, completely controlled by Microsoft, and they're going to make they're going to steward the next era in Halo. And they were called 343 Industries, and they had some of the big names that did a lot of work for them, including the guy who did all the music, which made Halo one of the greatest things about Halo. And they fucked it up. They fucked it up beyond measure. Halo 4 was good in some ways, but it was so bad in so many other ways, and Halo 5 is a nightmare.
I hear it's shit. I hear that from a lot of Halo fans.
Holy shit. Yeah, except from Halo fans.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
saying it's shit. And like all of them are saying it's shit. I don't know a single Halo fan, because I still occasionally keep up with that community, who's like, yeah, Halo 5's really good. Everybody, even like in their mother, fucking knows that it's bad. It is terribly executed. If you don't know, the main character of the fucking franchise, Master Chief, you play as him for 3 out of 12 missions.
Hot.
3 out of 12. I mean, that's just touching on the horribleness of the franchise. So it's like I watched that franchise basically fucking collapse, and there's no game other
But
than
Peter
the franchise that
Dinklage.
compels me to go
Come
to.
on, you can play Peter Dinklage in the new garbage.
Oh,
Bungie
don't
game.
get me started
Peter
on what Bungie did.
Dinklage.
What Bungie did after they left the Halo franchise is a different story from what the fucking leftovers of the
Dinklage, come
Halo
on.
team was. Fucking Destiny. I had my sister's boyfriend was obsessed with that game, but even he knew it wasn't good. It was such a, especially if you like follow, because I was like, oh my god, I want to see what Bungie's gonna do next, and they announced this big project. Excuse me, and it looked like, oh, we're gonna do Marathon, but in like the new generation, and it's horrible. It's basically an attempt at being an MMO on the console, and it fails miserably at doing that.
I couldn't imagine playing an MMO. Well, first, I don't like MMOs, but second of all, I couldn't imagine trying to play one on a console.
Right? It's. I mean, they had a nice idea, but it was just. Maybe it can be done. I don't know. I don't play consoles anymore, but they fucked it up. I played it a few times because I did play PS4 for a while simply because I wanted to play Grand Theft Auto, and this is before it released on the PC. And then as soon as it came out on the PC, I was like, bye. So I played GTA 5 on the PS4 for a while, and because my sister's boyfriend, it was his PS4, I would occasionally watch him play Destiny, and I would play it. And it was just such a piece of garbage. And, it seems like every company is doing this. So I wanted to actually, this reminds me, there's a question I wanted to ask both of you, and then I'll answer it real quick myself. Your favorite game and your favorite game franchise, if you can narrow it down. If you can't narrow it down to one, a couple.
So,
For me,
Let's say just before we get into this, I just wanted to add in, it's funny talking about PC and consoles or whatever, that just to finish off that whole thought from my end, was that the only new stuff I buy now, if ever, is stuff I buy on Steam, and Steam has become a way for someone like myself who wants to play 2D platformers or wants to play sort of strategy games or wants to play basically anything other than what consoles are, which is just a house where shooters live for the most part. You can actually get that style of gameplay, that style of games that just doesn't exist anymore. So oddly enough, the retro console guy actually depends on his PC to get his fix for those types of things.
Right.
So it's kind of funny how things have looped around where there's been like this group or this.
Oh, in the old country, it was terrible. We all had to flee. We will live. We will live. We will live in this new land of freedom and prosperity.
Basically.
Then you're all going to vote for the wrong thing because you're stupid. And then before you know it, it's going to turn to shit. God damn it. This is why I'm going to Mongolia.
Goddamn Mongolia. Fair enough. So go ahead with your question or your statement of favorite. Was it game and console?
Yeah, no, so well, actually, that's another one. So favorite game, if you can narrow it down to one or a couple. Favorite franchise, and it can be this part of the same game that you named, and then favorite console. Or favorite, we'll say console prior to, Xbox and all that shit. So for me, I'm going to go with Fallout 2 for favorite game, and I'm also going to go with Fallout franchise for favorite franchise. And that took a while to win me over because it was Legend of Zelda by far. And it's Legend of Zelda still too, but Fallout just fucking won me over. I played the original Fallout 1 and 2 back in the day, not because I had a PC, but because this guy that was down the street from us that used to hang out with my sister and I, who was a few years older than us, he was always a PC gamer, and I used to go to his house sometimes. And one of the games that he had was Fallout 1 and 2, and he, over the course of many, many weekends, let me play and beat both of those games. And obviously I didn't. I was not very smart, so he helped me quite a bit. But I eventually beat them. And those games just have such an amazing effect on me. I don't think there's a universe that I'm more obsessed with than the Fallout one. And then for console, I'm gonna go with the N64. I would go with the Super Nintendo, but I have I have way more memories on the N64. And one of the things that saddens me to this day, I don't know why, but it just does, is I watched the slow death of video game stores. I remember the early and late 2000s where it was Rogers Video and Blockbuster as far as the eye can see. And it was always my favorite thing on the weekend to go to rent a new game for the weekend. And I remember renting N64 games. I remember so many of them, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Party games, Mario 64, all the Zelda games, there's so many great, GoldenEye, so many great games on that console that I remember playing as a kid. So, Will, you want to
go? Yeah, okay. So Planescape Torment. I don't know if any of you guys have played that one. That's one that a lot of people recommend. I like that one a lot for classic RTS. Another one that I like a lot is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's a more modern one, but I don't know. If you like the Fallout franchise, a lot of the guys that made this stuff were the same people in both cases.
Okay.
Well written. See, as far as like shooters and stuff, like I don't know, Quake and Unreal Tournament, that kind of stuff. I'm not so much a Counter-Strike guy because the Counter-Strike guys are a little autistic, in my opinion. They're just kind of going around, and yeah, it's just like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and wait for somebody to poke their pinky around a corner, and then I'm going to blow his toe off. Ah ha ha! He died from sniper round to toe.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I'm more I like the craziness of Quake and Unreal Tournament, just jumping around. It's like, yeah, okay, so this is a semi-automatic rocket launcher. Get fucked. Backflip. Woo!
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, or point blanking somebody with a flak cannon. It's a flak cannon in your face. So I like that. Let's see. I don't know. I like. I've been in. No, I play too much of them to say I don't enjoy their game. I just think that they're retarded with balance, but that's kind of typical. I don't know. It's a thing with MOBAs. They don't. they have a really hard time figuring out what balance means, and they've got completely different ideas. So like the old school balance guys, what would happen is some people would sit there in their mom's basement and work it all out in like a spreadsheet, and then people would tell them they were wrong, and then they would respond with dick pics. And that was the conversation that occurred if you told the old Dota guys that their balance was wrong. They would just send you dick pics. And you could carry that on if they just, I can keep doing this. Then what happened is you ran into data-driven balancing, which is more what high-res does, where what they look at is analytics of win and loss ratios, and they make an assessment as to whether something is balanced or imbalanced on that basis. And I frankly prefer the dick pic model. I think that's more reliable, honestly. As ridiculous as that sounds, but it's data. The problem with data analytics is they're biased by what people like to play, and also some things are difficult but not imbalanced. And if it's difficult, people are inclined to start buffing it or nerfing it or whatever, and that distorts the model. And then the model that what the hell Blizzard's Overwatch game, what they go with is the whining metric. And basically, if you are terrible at the game and you go on the forum and you complain, Hi-Rez will give you a lolly. Well, not Hi-Rez, Blizzard. Blizzard will give you a lollipop and pat you on the head because you're a good boy. And that is their model of balancing. And those are the three models. And of the three, I prefer the dick pics.
Beautifully illustrated, Will. So just wrap it up for yours. Do you have a favorite console?
I started playing with the original Nintendo Entertainment System, NES. I played that. After that, my next system was the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis was my last console. So I enjoyed those. I did Mario. I did the original Zelda. I did Sonic the Hedgehog. I did the original Street Fighter, which was very. You felt like a naughty boy when you were playing that game. You're like, oh, look at that! I ripped his spine out. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's Mortal Kombat, isn't it?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat. Yeah, did I say Mortal Kombat?
You said that Street Fighter. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mortal Kombat is what I meant. Yeah. So this the spine ripping and whatever, and just everybody's like, oh, look at how amazing we're so cool. We're ripping spines out. Yeah. And then I enjoyed also the PlayStation to a certain extent. I really am a massive fan of Soul Reaver. If there's actually something that I wish I had, I never had a PlayStation. I just played it with all my friends. Was Soul Reaver, and so that entire franchise I enjoy, and I can play, I believe, all of it on the PC. So I'm quite happy about that.
All right, cool. So Brian, favorite game, franchise, and console?
See, anytime I ask me the favorite game question, I usually divide it up by console system because I have difficulty saying what is what for that that aspect. Yeah, I don't know if I could pick an NES favorite because that's my favorite console and there's just so many good games on it. So that one I probably can't give you a title. I'm going to totally be a baby on that one and sucker out. The SNES I can give you two, which is Donkey Kong Country 2, which I just love to death immensely, and Ogre Battle, which is sort of a mixture of real-time strategy, sort of long-term strategy, a little bit of RPG. It's a really cool game that a lot of people will try and go, oh, I like RPGs, and they'll try it for like two or three maps, or maybe they'll get a dozen maps into the game and they'll be like, oh, this is really dumb and stupid. I don't get it. That's because it's a game that requires you to fail at it a ton before you figure out how to play it properly and like get all the great characters and just do all the cool shit that's coming. And of interest to you, Guinness, potentially, is that is going to be my next series on YouTube that I'm going to be starting work on soon, so there's something to put up over Christmas while I'm unavailable to do live streaming. So something for you to look forward to. Cool. On the 64, probably Banjo-Kazooie. Probably.
Good choice.
It's a good game. It has not aged. It's aged better than most platformers from that era. It still hasn't aged well in certain aspects, and I still maintain that Banjo-Tooie is just a flaming dog pile of garbage. But most banjo fans think I'm crazy. But anyway,
it's a well. Actually, can you do a quick digression on that? Because I'm sort of in the middle on that. I still don't know because it's been years since I played it. But here's my perspective: is that because I loved Banjo-Tooie way more, and I played it first before I played Banjo-Tooie, and that was as a kid. But it was a rapid collectathon, and you're absolutely right about that. I didn't spend most of my time as a kid trying to get everything. I just tried to beat it, and in that aspect, it was pretty fun. But here's the thing: I had so much nostalgia for it. When the original Xbox 360 came out, they did this thing, like arcade. You could have a bunch of old games, and Rare sold the rights to Banjo-Tooie and Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know. I think they did Kazooie later, but anyway, the Banjo-Tooie was on the Xbox 360 live, and so I downloaded that, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna play it again. It's all HD and stuff," and I could not play it. Every time I tried to make myself play it. I was like, "I don't like this. This is boring." So I can't defend it very vehemently, but what are your specific problems with it? And sorry to interrupt you. Can go after that.
My problem is that I really, really enjoyed Banjo-Kazooie when I played it. Like, for the era and the 64, it was, again, within context, because what it was going up against the PC at the time, you laugh at this, Will, but it was like, this game is actually beautiful. Look at those water effects, you know? Mm-hmm. Things of that nature really kind of amazed me, and it was this... And the fact that the hub was this long, winding thing that you could work off of, and the backtracking you did in the game was in that hub, here and there, which they set up the pots to warp you around, did all the stuff, and it was pretty good. You didn't have to do a lot of backtracking to previous levels.
The backtracking in Banjo-Tooie is retarded.
Because you could go into a level, get the 100 notes, you could get your 10 shines, you could get the jiggy outside to appear, or I said shines because I'm thinking sunshine. You get your 10 jiggies, you get your jiggy outside, you could do all the shit, you could collect everything in one go and get the fuck out. The only real backtrack in the game was Freeze Easy Peak, because you needed to go get the running shoes from I think the desert level to complete one jiggy. Okay, so you did everything else and you come back for that, fine. Banjo-Tooie was like, here, we'll give you more eggs and more attacks and more collectibles to get. And oh, by the way, you're going to backtrack through this level to do this later, and you're going to have to go here to get this and come back here and go here and then do this. And it started looking like a conspiracy theory board of threads leading all over the place, because you would have to take copious notes, so you were never going to get everything in that game.
It was impossible.
It was ridiculous how much backtracking was in that game. And that is what really drove me nuts about it. And I never finished it because I think I got to the fire ice level, like volcano or whatever, and I was like, oh, you know what, I'm done. I can no longer do this, and that's my Banjo-Tooie rant for the day. And then I guess if I'm gonna have to pick a GameCube game I really, really like, honestly, the one that I have the best memories of is a launch title, because when the GameCube came out, everyone was getting, we're going to get this one, and you're going to get Star Wars Rogue One, or whatever it was called, the dog fighting. You get to do the whole trench before they did that 16 times in a row at all the Star Wars games.
Yeah.
My brother's like, no, I'm going to get Super Monkey Ball. And I'm like, you're fucked in the head. Why would you possibly get this game? And then we spent literally thousands of hours. Pardon me, 1 second. Thousands of hours playing that game, doing the regular mode and the party games and the mini games, and just playing the ever-living fuck out of that game. And it became one of the earliest speedrunning things I actually paid attention to, was the people who were good at it. I'm like, I'm good at this game, but these people are amazing. It's awesome watching them bounce off of pieces and going over and collecting these bananas and going for, it was just, oh man, definitely Super Monkey Ball without a doubt if I had to pick a GameCube game, which is a surprise considering that's a Sega game. Since I've played a very little Sega games in my life. So yeah, that's that. And I'm trying to think of what I'd say for the NES. I really can't just pick one. I just love that system, even though it's full of glitches and is so old. And
well, it's full of all the old arcade hate.
True, and
right?
I do have a certain amount of self-loathing arcade hate.
Yeah, and that's something that most people don't understand that didn't go through the arcade phase. They don't understand that hatred is a component of the arcade experience, because the game hates you.
I will beat you.
It wants you to kill yourself. It thinks it's funny when you cry, and that is just part of the game experience, which is why you start cackling with insane glee when you finally win. You're that madman who's finally fucking done it. The madman, he's finally did it. Wow, look at him.
It sounds
That
about
was,
right.
that was. I mean, I'm not exaggerating.
No,
That
you're
was
not
true.
exaggerating. You want to know how to multiply that?
Yeah.
Run games from that era.
Yeah, exactly.
Guinness might. I don't know if you've seen the video or not, but the one game that on the NES that I have world records in for speedrunning is NES Open Tournament Golf, which
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
so have you seen me break 8.5 minutes on the UK course? I mean,
Yeah.
cackling madman doesn't describe it as I'm just screaming into my headset, get fucking hype, and losing my shit on webcam after I've just done this thing that is basically impossible and managed to make enough shots to get this to work. I think it was 24 under using just a driver and a putter. Like, it's absolutely insane that I managed to get that with the RNG to light up, and I made the shots I needed to pull this off. I'm just losing my goddamn mind. So that is a perfect descriptor for when you take down one of those. So yeah,
Right.
quickly, the Zelda games, both of them on NES are great. Tecmo Super Bowl is fucking amazing. Still, we'll play that to death. Let's see, Zelda 2, NES Open Golf, and honestly, Dragon Warrior 3 or 4. They're slow on the NES, but they're still amazing. Although I much prefer the handheld versions nowadays.
All right, so we're coming up at about 1 p.m. How much time you got, Brian? You want to cut it off soon, or?
Actually, yeah, I do need to cut out pretty soon here.
All right, so let's wrap it up real quick. Any final thoughts, Will?
I'm so happy that you people have finally been able to enjoy the peace, freedom, and prosperity in the new world, and I just hope you contribute positively to it. That's all. Yeah.
What the fuck do you mean, you people? I'm triggered.
Yep.
Hey, well, that's the show. So
Exactly.
welcome to the show.
There you
So,
go.
Brian, anything you want to leave us with before we cut it off?
If you think I'm funny, and God knows why you would, or you find me entertaining, and God knows why you would, feel free to drop by my YouTube, my Twitch.
Yeah, we have the link for his
Twitter,
YouTube in the description.
Twitter if you want. I mostly just use that to announce when I'm going to be streaming, and every now and then I get a few good and back and forth with Zoop Soul or another buddy of mine from GameFAQs, YouTube, and that around the wheel. So yeah, feel free to drop by.
Hoot.
All right, so thanks for joining us, everybody, and we will see you whenever we show up next. So take it easy, and remember, stay homophiled.